It's Susanne Stephenson, and actually it was Suzanne Groves when I was married and a little kid. Anyhow, I'm from Canton, Ohio, and I grew up there and went to high school there. And to start with, I took music lessons instead of art, and the music teacher was a art teacher also, and after I kind of screwed up in a few concerts, she suggested maybe I should stick to the visual arts. So what I did was I took lessons in her studio, but I also went to the Canton Art Institute for kids' classes, and I learned all sorts of things in drawing and painting, but I also took up sewing, which probably later on helped me put stuff together. And I collected butterflies for their pattern and color and pinned them up together. I mean, it probably ecologically wasn't a good way where we did this, but anyhow, that was a visual thing again. And I think right off I must have been a very visual person. I was not very good at academics. I was, again, a visual person, and the academics were hard for me, so I would just wait. I mean, I wouldn't wait, but I couldn't wait to get into the art studio, because there I could relax and actually get something done that I felt was accomplishing something. And the teacher, at those days there weren't very good programs in some high schools. I mean, there was Cass Tech in Detroit and all this stuff, but we didn't have that kind of thing. And so when I finished high school, I had to figure out what I was going to do. In the meantime, when I was in high school, I taught at the Y. I did some stuff at the local department store, like setting up the displays and stuff. But what I ended up doing was thinking about what I was going to do to go to school. My parents didn't want me to go to the Cleveland Art Institute because it was not in a nice new building, and it was a kind of an old house. They called it a fire trap. And my other schools, Ohio State wasn't for me. So at any rate, what finalized everything, I decided to apply to Carnegie Tech. It was called Carnegie Tech then, it's not Carnegie Mellon. So when I went to Carnegie, I got in painting and design, and I wasn't a very good painter. I mean, paint on the flat surface, and I don't know why I thought at that time that there must be something more you could do with the painting on a canvas. You could, move it around, make it into 3D or something. I never did that then, but I had that in mind. Then when it came closer to graduating, after studying painting and design, I had, before final, I had to decide some other courses to take. And in order to take the so-called crafts, you had to take art ed, which wasn't a bad thing because I could still paint in the painting studio with the rest of the painting majors. I wasn't like a second-class citizen because I was down in the craft studio. So I did that, and I went down and studied with a person from Alfred named Wesley Mills. He told me to go to the Carnegie Library, told me the book to get out, and there were only like Daniel Rhodes, and there was like Parmalee, which is a chemistry book about color and what the chemicals do. If I had known this in high school, I certainly would have paid more attention in chemistry. And then I had to decide what I was going to do once I graduated with the ceramics and the painting, and I had to have some sort of job. My parents were paying for this, but it was pretty expensive. It wasn't a state school. And the other experiences at Carnegie was I met a lot of people, people from other cultures by going down by the baseball stadium, which was in the downtown instead of down by the river, and painting and drawing, and the kids would come up and want to know what you were doing, and speaking Italian, and then their moms would come up. It was pretty interesting. So you engage yourself with the community then without even having to. Well, anyhow, at Carnegie, the guy in printmaking, who I took from, said that he had gone to Cranbrook, and that might be a good place to go for me, if I could get in. And so I still had to teach, and after I did that, I knew I wanted to apply. The teacher there in the public schools, they hired even painters to teach because they had art in every school, every day, kindergarten through, high school. So they needed a lot of people, and she would hire people, and then they couldn't hold that position unless they took art ed. But anyhow, she told me that maybe, there would be jobs in the suburbs, that in clay and metal that I could teach in high school. And I thought about that, and then I really decided I wanted to go to Cranbrook. So in Cranbrook, I studied with a very famous Father Maya Grotel. She had this sort of edge on her that some people were afraid really to go in and talk to her. But I think that since I went to Carnegie and had a rather open dialogue, I mean, this is getting beside the point, but people, when you were in a critique, you weren't given the answer. You had to pry for the answer or give your own answer. So you had to think about this. There wasn't a one answer fits all kind of thing. And as graduate school, most places are like this now, I guess, but that's sort of the way it was at Cranbrook. So I would just go in, and Maya was sitting in there, and I knew she had all this knowledge about color. So I would go in and ask about certain glazes and certain ways of doing things and testing, and she would just open up her books and sit there and talk to me. And I thought, when I go back, why are people guarding her so? You know what I mean? So I had a pretty good experience there. I mean, I learned a lot, and my pots were very tight there and everything. It was all mainly, my thesis all about surface and color, like chrome, and spraying things on top that would kind of crystallize, and these things would float on the chrome and become optical. But it was on a smooth surface. And when I got ready to graduate, I had to look for a job, and I applied all over, and I got some takes on things, but I ended up, I got interviewed at Purdue. The craft department was in the home ec department. I knew that probably could get out of there, but that's where it was, with fiber weaving fiber and clay and metal. And then there was a school near Meadville in Pennsylvania where my one roommate was from, and I also applied there. And they did have something in art ed, but things were all over the place. So I sort of thought, since I had been to U of M, and there was a one-year job there, even though it's just a one-year job, that they had this big collection in the museum. And one of the students at Cranbrook that I met at one point, where she came over, I found out about all these seminars about the collection and clay and Japanese stuff. And I thought, I'm gonna try and take this one job. And so I got it, and that's where I met my husband, John. And he was getting going there, building up the studio and everything. And my job wasn't really totally just in clay. It was part in 3D design in the sculpture studio. I taught there for a year. We got married, and taught at U of M. And we got married, and the dean, or the chairman then, not the dean, said, you can't teach her even if we have a job, because of nepotism. So anyhow, I knew I had to look for a job someplace. But in the meantime, John applied for a Rackham to Japan to go and study natural glazing in Shigaraki and Bizen, which is where Marie had done some residency. And it was a really fantastic experience, but I had to make some money, and I was trying to learn more Japanese, going to language at U of M, and then instead of going to the lab, I would be going to teach at the museum and the public school program in after school. And so I probably learned more once I got there. My influences, I think, well, they were Impressionism, but they also were abstract expressionism. And then as things got bolder and I used more heavy lines and stuff, I think there was some German expressionism in that too. So in the Impressionists, before you get into abstract Impressionists, I actually was influenced by a little bit by Monet's light and color use on the haystacks, because I named even some of my pieces about a certain time of day or night or whatever, or fall or spring. And then I was influenced by Cézanne and his brush stroke and use of some things in landscape. When you get into abstract expression, I'll be quick about this. I think Hans Hofmann, Motherwell, Franz Klein, some of those people. As far as looking at the work, I hope that they can see more than the title implies. Some people see more than that. And I also hope they get a sense of, if they're a potter or what, an artist, that you have to experiment with certain things, and you have to have some failures before you find out. If you don't do that, you don't get anywhere.